It's time now for another jam session. Vegas is still on the top of everybody's minds, clearly. The Charlotte Observer sheds light on the fact that in 2011, the city passed a dangerous objects ordinance intended to make Las Vegas safer, prohibiting flamethrowers, blades over 3 inches long, and get this, toy guns. But it didn't prohibit real guns. Big issue with this, right? I mean, what do you guys think? This is, what does this do? What does this change?
The toy gun thing?
Yeah, like what is...
Oh, it's nothing. I mean, the NRA and the small, I think, passionate minority who really is pro-guns, they pass random ordinances to make it seem like it's more safe, and it's not. I mean, there's a video I want you guys to take a look at quickly. In 2015, Ted Cruz put this out, and he literally cooked bacon on a machine gun, and this is real. Oh, wow. Like, this is not a joke. He acted in this. I mean, politicians do crazy stuff to support gun laws and to support the NRA. It's nuts.
It's big money.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will, say, obviously, arguing the other side that, people, gun life, it's a culture.
Yes.
So it's not just about having an object or not having an object. It's a culture that goes along with it. I told you yesterday that I worked in rural America, and that's just a part of what they do there. Sure. And they feel like it can also serve as a rite of passage for a lot of them. I know most of us, everyone sitting up here, we come from large cities, so we kind of have a different experience with guns, just in terms of being in big city and dealing with big city crime and murders, et cetera. But I mean, I definitely want to be clear, in my personal opinion, I don't think that guns should be gone, but I do think certain laws should be passed just to kind of give us some order.
So to that point, I just feel like the gun lobbyists need to give us an inch. I don't want all of your guns, but you don't need semi-automatic or automatic weapons, and so hunting is a whole nother thing, and gun culture, like yesterday you talked about living miles and miles away from a major city and that's your only protection, but you don't need a semi-automatic weapon.
Yeah, I think guys like Ashton Kutcher, celebrities speaking out and saying, hey, I'm a hunter, I'm a sportsman, but there's still no need for these type of guns. And I think as people who are in that culture that you speak of, Felicia, so eloquently, I do think that those are people that if they say, hey, yeah, we enjoy this culture, it's embedded in us, it's very much in our fiber and our fabric, but yet still, there still needs to be some regulation so these kind of things do not happen. And the more people that speak out like that, that'll be really interesting to see what changes come of this. It's ultimately going to see, is this going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back where people finally act?
I wish, I hope.
Yeah, and I guess all we can see is, because we can't sit here and wait for another tragedy.
We thought Sandy Hook in 2012, 5 years ago, would have been something that would spark some sort of change. One thing I was thinking about yesterday, just a random thought, like what if we had a place where they could go and use these guns? Like if they wanted to use some of those very powerful, very fast shooting guns, like what if we could go, if they had a place that they can go to do it? I'm just trying to find the middle ground. I feel like it's so much shouting on these polarizing issues when we need to come up with more solutions. Like what's the middle ground to get this done?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll switch gears. O.J. Simpson, he's out of jail, and his representatives are saying he's ready to talk as long as somebody's willing to pay $3 to $5 million for that first interview.
No.
Oh. Would you pay? I guess the question is, do you envision somebody paying for this?
Money.
Somebody's going to pony up and pay, right?
But I hope they don't. Like, who cares? Who cares about O.J. Simpson coming out of?
I'll be tuned in, girl.
We have Afghanistan and North Korea and climate change and gun laws. I don't care about O.J. Simpson.
Show won
coming
Emmys.
Out of, I don't care.
Emmys on multiple levels. The ESPN documentary won Emmys. The show on FX won Emmys.
I get it.
There's a fascination with the man. I'm with you.
It's more important.
He's a killer, or
he's
not a convicted killer, but people do believe that he's a killer, and yet he's being celebrated. I hear your point, but there's a immense fascination with this guy. Any content that's peddled out involving O.J. Simpson, people buy into it.
But don't you think that's what he buys into? Like,
of course,
O.J. loves O.J.
I think even when you've heard from his friends in these documentaries and these stories, like that's what O.J. is. He finds the limelight and he thrives in it. And I don't think he's going to be a guy that just hangs out in Vegas and doesn't do anything with his life.
Oh, yeah,
he's going to pursue those people who will pay for him to do something. And look, it's like anybody. I mean, people would kill to talk to Casey Anthony, I'm sure, and put money out there to talk to her. Like, people are fascinated by some dark stuff and they want to hear the story. And O.J. not only was an accused killer, he was also a great athlete. He was also a celebrity long before that. So he knows how to play that role.
$3 to $5 million is a lot. I just want him to just go and sit down somewhere.
Do you think he does an interview?
I think it would have to be heavily, heavily coached if he does that. I think, like, rehearsed.
I think that the juice is loose. He can't help it. If there's an interview, I think he'll probably say something that we're all like, oh, okay.
Well, I'll be tuned in.
I just see like
You
an
wanna
Anderson
come
Cooper.
here?
Don't you see like Anderson Cooper?
I hope. Do you think who's gonna get it?
Of 3
I think I could see Anderson Cooper being the guy who gets that interview.
Yeah,
Right,
Matt
we'll give him a
Lauer's
Starbucks.
competitive.
Why not Oprah?
Yeah, I would love that.
We'll
Yeah,
give him a
so-
gift. We'll give you a gift card, a Starbucks gift card if you come here. I'll treat you to dinner.
Instead of the 3 to 5 mil.
Instead of the 3 to 5 million.
least look at
I'm not sure that's the offer he's gonna take.
All right, Hugh Hefner passed away a little over a week ago, but there's already talk of turning his life into a movie with Jared Leto attached to star as Hef. Is it too soon to be talking about this? Is this another project that you guys are interested in, not interested in? What's your take on all this Leto as Hef?
I'm in for Leto as Hef. When I lived in LA, I saw Jared Leto out a lot, and he's a cool dude. He definitely has a lot of girls around him. I think he's used to that.
He requested personally, I believe it was Brett Ratner, who's the director of this thing. He said, I want to play this role. So that's kind of how his name got thrown in the mix. The two are friends.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Leto actually throws like really big Halloween parties and goes all out, and he's like themed. So I feel like the girls, he's used to the whole girls thing. That's what I'm trying to say.
I thought it was too soon, but then I found out that it had already been in the works. I think it said from like 2007, they had already been talking about this. So then I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But when you think about it, it's like, why wouldn't you have a movie about a guy with a bunch of girls? Like, it just seems like it'll already be a box breaker.
Yeah, he started the magazine at
what I'm saying?
26. Like, that definitely is a story.
Anybody whose name's thrown around as revolutionary, I think there's grounds for potentially doing a movie of some sort about him. And we talked about earlier in the week if he's a revolutionary, is he not? Is he somebody to be celebrated, or is he somebody to be ignored because of how he's come up? Bottom line is he's controversial, and controversy sells, and I think people are going to be interested in watching. So, in a recent interview in another one of my favorite magazines, Harper's Bazaar.
You have a subscription to this one?
This is what I subscribe to.
Okay.
3 years running. Julia Roberts admits to being quite the brat when she was at the height of her fame, to the point that her nickname around movie sets was Tinkerhell. Who would have thought this about America's former sweetheart? Pretty Woman.
Yeah, I obviously didn't know that then when all these hit movies are being made, but also like I feel like for her to come back and say hindsight 2020, I think it's nice. I mean, she's saying that she's changed and that she's a different person, and hopefully other people can learn from it. I gotta give it to her. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all. I'm so mad at this. You're like looking at me like, what in the world? So, okay, I love Julia Roberts. Like, I would potentially name my firstborn daughter Julia because I love Julia Roberts so much.
Okay.
I love her movies. I love her curls, her smile.
I like the Whitney Williams response. Oh, okay.
Okay. So I want to think of her as Julia Roberts,
Yeah.
America's sweetheart, and I don't know why she said this about herself. Like, she could have let us all keep thinking that.
Yeah, right? I guess that's
true.
The
That's a good
honesty
point.
when you
We didn't really
don't
know
need
this.
to. It's like when you accidentally take something from the grocery store. You don't take it back. You just
Right,
keep
like
it,
no
right?
one called you out.
You didn't do it. It wasn't like that. Well,
I don't know about you, Jordan, but I take my grapes back. If I get any extra grapes, I
See,
take
she
them
already
back.
mentioned
Unless
what she
you
stole
eat them
before.
in the car.
No, those are my grapes.
You know, for me, I guess the whole thing is she was young, right? Like,
Yeah.
Was Pretty Woman it was her first movie, or at least
She was like 25, 26
her
when she
breakout
was.
role. I loved her.
Mystic Pizza was her first. So I
Okay.
guess she was really young, and I think when I think about like what comes with the fame at that age, like
Yeah.
you almost can't stop it. It almost just happens organically. And I think, like anybody, as you get older, you realize what mistakes you made earlier in
Yeah.
life, and hers happened to be on such a grand stage where she was able to say, I was an awful brat on these movie sets.
I loved her on Aaron Brockovich.
Oh, the
that's when
best.
I fell in
Here's
love with
the
her.
thing that
That
people always
such
say.
a
She was
good
a
movie.
boss.
It's the thing that people always say about Julia Roberts, and I have to agree with it. Julia Roberts isn't a great actress because she just plays herself in every movie.
No!
She's just herself in every
We
movie.
don't have enough time for me to
Think
combat this,
about that.
but
Did
no.
you see Aaron Brockovich?
She played
Pretty
herself.
Woman?
That's her personality. Pretty Woman, that's her personality.
Runaway
Give me
Bride,
another
My
movie.
Best Friend's Wedding.
All the same personality.
Can you
I
guys
can't
shut his
breathe.
mic off?
All the
can't
same
breathe.
Can
personality.
you guys shut his mic off? Just cut it.